Good day everyone. Today I'm going to present my DRP topic, which is climate resilient WaSH facilities in small foothill city of Vikasnagar, which is in Uttarakhand. The aim of the project is to ensure a climate resilient and sustainable water future for the small foothill city of Vikasnagar. The objectives are to assess the WaSH infrastructure practice and issues, to evaluate available water source for the city with respect to both fresh water, that is ground and surface, and used water. And the third objective deals with the recommendations both at technical level and institutional capacity building level. So the study is divided into four phases, namely city overview, baseline profiling, gap analysis, and assessment, and lastly recommendations. The city overview in the first phase has been done through a secondary research from blogs, articles, videos, various documents, and primary understanding of the spatial extent of the city from Google Earth. The second phase included primary observations through site visits. I visited the site twice for 1 week each. Through this, I tried to do a thorough baseline profiling of the city by doing almost 40 household surveys, 5 plus KII, that is key informant interviews in person, few telephonic interviews with relevant personals, and FGDs, that is the focus group discussions with farmers in around 4 clusters. The survey was divided with respect to income group, community, gender, age group, and professions. Hotel owners are also interviewed to understand the commercial consumptions of the city. The KIIs involved mainly state and ULB officials, NGO representatives doing the extensive work within the region, and relevant private parties. The next phase dealt with the analysis for the gap identification. This mainly meant integrating the primary and secondary findings in an Excel-based analysis for coming up with quantifiable conclusion. Mainly sensitivity analysis is done to understand ground, surface, and wastewater usage scenario in the city. The last part dealt with doing global and national case studies and formulations of the final proposals. So coming to the city overview, Vikasnagar is a very small city belonging to the Vikasnagar Tehsil in the Dehradun district of Uttarakhand state of India. It has got 11 wards and spans across 6 square kilometers with around 40,000 population, making it a tier 3 city. The city lies adjacent to the Yamuna River, bordering HP to the that is Himachal Pradesh to the west and UP to the south. It is around 40 kilometers from the state capital, which is Dehradun. It also acts as a transient city for the tourists as the NH 507 passes through it. The city also acts as a market hub uh, for the nearby hill stations. The average elevation of the city is around 460 meters. The spatial analysis of the city shows that the city is slowly growing towards the river. So talking about the initiatives by the government, most of the initiatives are state specific. But in the last few years, there are three main programs that focused on Vikasnagar, mostly from the lens of water and sanitation infrastructure, are Parbat Manthan, River City Alliance project, and the Uttarakhand Livability Resilience Improvement project, which is the prominent one as it is a 600 crore budget program funded by ADB and EIB parallelly, which deals with making climate resilient WaSH infrastructure in the city. Thus, despite being a small town, it becomes extremely important to study this town for more context specific evaluation of these programs. So coming to the baseline profiling of the city, the first part of which deals with studying the surface water scenario and the groundwater scenario in the city. Among the surface water, the major ones are the Yamuna River and the substream of the river Asana, which passes through the city. Among the human-made water bodies, Shakti Canal forms a major part of the hydroelectric project that flows between the Daktpathar barrage and the Asana barrage. A number of irrigation channels also forms a major part of the blue infrastructure of the city. Geographically also, the city is nestled among an ecologically fragile and rich environment, as towards the north lies the Himalayas, towards the east the Shivalik range of forests, and the south and west are surrounded by rivers already mentioned. Among the city also used to have a number of ponds and few other streams, but they are currently in a diminishing stage due to lack of maintenance and awareness. In the outskirts of the city, it has an aquifer is observed, and currently it is part of a temple premise used for ritualistic purposes. Coming to the groundwater dependency mapping of the area, as per primary research, it has been observed that there is an increasing dependency of groundwater in agriculture, as the summer season causes shortage in surface water. The groundwater depth has also been decreasing from around 30, 30 feet to around 165 feet near the river areas, and within the city, the groundwater table is currently at about 300 feet. Though at individual household levels there is no borewells is observed, commercial sectors and temples do have private borewells, and each in during peak season each hotel uh, extract around 15 kiloliter of water daily. But a study is also done on the groundwater condition of the entire region, and it reveals that during summer season there is been a considerably depletion of groundwater in the region. But on a positive note, during monsoon and post monsoon season, the area experiences considerable rise in water table, establishing the fact that effective rainwater harvesting can help to tackle the water crisis situation on the city. Next, a baseline profiling of the water and the wastewater infrastructure is also done. So the city has 100% coverage of water supply, with its major infrastructure currently consisting of 6 OHTs and with pump and 4 direct pumping stations. The primary source of water in the city is groundwater, and the average LPCD supplied is around 60 to 70 LPCD for a duration of about 6 to 8 hours. NRW is calculated to be around 48%, which is attributed to the very old and leaky supply infrastructure. As per KII, a seasonal water shortage is also observed, which is for now is being compensated by the government through private tankers, and it costs around rupees 3 to 7 lakhs for the government. But it also raises a question about the depleting trend of groundwater and hence the future water security of the city. Now coming to the ULRIP proposals for the water supply infrastructure within the city, uh, the the water supply is likely to be raised from 60 LPCD to 135 LPCD with an aspiration of achieving 24/7 of water supply. The construction of newer supply infrastructure ensures NRW reduction to around 15% as per the SLB standards. But to achieve this extra supply of water, the pump discharge is also raised to around to to double or to almost double, increasing the electrical consumption and groundwater extraction, as the entire project is again depending on the groundwater despite being adjacent to the river and a dwindling water table. For wastewater management, the city majorly depends on on-site sanitation, with only 15% of the city having sewer coverage. The wastewater from the sewer lines used to be treated in a sludge tank, and then this treated water was then used in farming practices. And this land belonged to UK Jal Sansthan and was being the farming practices was done in on the basis of lease. But with the advent of this ULRIP program, this practice is currently dysfunctional, and the untreated waste is directly discharged into the river. The rest of the city is dependent on on-site sanitation. For wastewater But in case of on-site sanitation, often the grey water discharge from the individual household is observed to be connected to a nearby streams, stormwater drains, or irrigation canals, creating environmental degradation. This practice is done unofficially to decrease the load on individual septic tanks or soak pits owing to the inefficient monitoring of the well. These wastewater mixed with stormwater mixed with wastewater is then again carried to the river, which further depletes the river. So, to summarize, this is the management of the entire sanitation of the city. On-site sanitation is almost 80%, where the black water from the soak pits on septic tanks is being emptied by honeysuckers, private or public, and currently it has been officially it is supposed to go to Dehradun STP, but as per the KII and interviews, it has been observed that the very little part of it goes to Dehradun STP, but a maximum part of it is being unofficially dumped into a private tank, which is then unofficially used as manure by the farmers. The grey water management, the grey water system is that they're unofficially dumped into the irrigation channels and freshwater and stormwater drains, and therefore ending up into the river, causing river pollution. The offsite sanitation of the are almost 15 to 20%. Currently, through a C1 network, they are officially they used to reach a sewage farm, and this wastewater is then being used as in agriculture for plowing of the land. But currently, this is not in practice, and therefore they are currently being discharged directly into the river. Coming to the ULRIP proposal for the sanitation management in the city, a STP of 7 MLD with a co-treatment septic facility of 10 MLD is proposed. Laying of new sewer networks is also proposed. The entire city is now divided into two zones, according to which 60% of the city is covered for offsite sanitation, that is sewer network is being built there, but the rest 40% is left to on-site sanitation. But the main issues identified here is the absence of grey water management proposals for this zone too. The absence of which lead to perpetuating the existing problem of dumping grey water into the water bodies, unofficially continuing the water body pollution. The same sewage firm a site is chosen as a site for the STP. The site is a property of UK Jal Sansthan, as already mentioned, and is adjacent to the river. The total area of the site is 36 acres, out of which only 3.6 acres is allotted for the STP, whereas the rest of the site is dedicated for green infrastructural development. Coming to understand the wastewater reuse potential in agriculture, a FGD among farmers has been done who show willingness to use wastewater provided the government assures about its safety. So these are the 4 clusters in which the FGDs are done. The farming practice is currently being divided into two zones, namely in terms of agriculture practices. The west side of the Shakti Canal mainly deals with the commercial farming, whereas the eastern side, which is towards the city, deals with private farming. The various types of crops grown are mostly edible crops like wheat, mustard, kidney beans, and various green vegetables. The water requirement for ploughing of 1 acre of land is also calculated, and it came to about 19.7 million litre per year, as each farmland is required to get ploughed 4 times in the year, and 19.7 million litre of water is the total water that is needed per year to plough 1 acre of land, and this roughly equals to around 250 numbers of regular pool size, the volume of water that is held by 250 numbers of regular pool. Although the primary source of water is carried by the irrigation canals, but during crisis, groundwater is also increasingly being used within the past decade, with farmers saying that the borewell construction has increased from around 1 or 2 15 years back, that is around 2010, to currently about to around hundreds. um, and also during crisis season, an unofficial pumping from the Shakti canal is also observed. So this is the commercial consumption area and this is the private consumption area. So further analysis has now been done based on these three components, which is the groundwater source and energy consumption, surface water source and energy consumption, and wastewater to reduce energy consumption for the treatment process. And the various key issues identified with respect to ground, surface, and wastewater listed here. Most of it indicates to have further analysis on the future extraction of groundwater and also electrical energy consumed for the same to cater to the increased demand. The city being adjacent to the river also nudges to see how it can be an alternate source of water and how it will change the energy consumption. Similarly, the city having started to face a water crisis led to thinking of wastewater as an alternative source, which eventually will also lessen the burden on the treatment process. So that dictates the flow of gap identification analysis, which is the first I have done a total water extracted and wastewater generated according to the LPCD availability through a period of 18 years, and then how much is the potential for wastewater and its reuse, and then the carbon emission in both the supply and the treatment process. So the first purpose is to analyze the available LPCD and the amount of wastewater generated through a period of 18 years and considering different scenarios, which are formed by combining various NRW consumption as per CF indicator along with pump discharge and capacity of operating hours. Analysis indicates that even at the best case scenario, that is at 15% NRW and using 14700 LPM as it is proposed in the program, the 135 LPCD target is not achieved within 18 years. But the continuous application of the same standard across all cities will necessitate that if we really have to achieve this 135 LPCD, there is a necessary to increase either the pump discharge or the operating hours, which will consequently lead to higher energy consumption. So after the LPCD analysis, the wastewater generated in the same cases has been done. Second purpose is to analyze the energy consumption for its water supply and treatment process. This mainly depends on three criteria: pump discharge, operating hours, and distance from which the water is supplied, which indirectly leads to this which indirectly uh, depends on the source of water, as all of it adds to the electrical energy consumed in the process and hence the carbon emission in the process. Carbon emissions, now coming to the limitations of the project, carbon emission mainly depends on number of factors which are both direct and indirect. But in this study, I am only looking upon the carbon emission emitted from the electricity used for pumping and treatment process. Now, the three different sources are analyzed to find the optimal one having increased water supply yet minimal energy consumption, which is 100. What if we use 100% groundwater? What if we use 100% surface water? What is electrical consumption and hence the carbon footprint? And what if we use both of these sources in 50-50 percentage? So the various emission factors and the various assumptions are taken as per IPCC, and it has been listed below. So a sensitivity analysis shows that while the surface water in this context scenario is the most energy efficient, but in this case, currently if we reduce the groundwater table from increase the groundwater table from 91 meter to 30 meter, it offers the lowest carbon emissions. This also emphasizes the need for recharge of groundwater and effective management of rainwater harvesting. Next, the carbon emission analysis for treatment is done considering the same parameters to calculate the wastewater volume, that is NRW, pump discharge and operating hours, and also the treatment type, which is either on-site or off-site. For the analysis, it is assumed that 60% of the total city's wastewater is generated in zone 1 and the rest is generated in zone 2. This has been done by getting a rough idea about the built up uh, expansion or built up structure of the city currently. There are various other assumptions considered for the analysis, and the various emission factors are also considered as per the IPCC website. So it has been observed that if there is if there is increased water supply, which is a good thing, but it also raises the wastewater volume and hence the treatment energy needs. Thus, in this case scenario, to maintain a balanced amount of water supply and 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 which it generates a considerable amount of wastewater reuse, but to balance the carbon emission and the electrical consumption needs, wastewater reuse is vital for sustainable and efficient water management and hence to reduce the carbon emission in the process. So, a suitability analysis considering factors like commercial viability, topography, and farming is done to ensure how much uh, of this wastewater can be reused in the agriculture. And by doing this suitability analysis, it has been found that around 774 acres of farmland, which to the west of the Shakti Canal, is suitable for agriculture. This part is also the farmers also uh, is reported to show willingness to use wastewater, and also this is a commercial consumption of agriculture practice, which also makes it viable to use wastewater in a bulk form. So to analyze this potential reuse, the proposed wastewater reuse strategy is examined through three different scenarios. That is, what if we use 100% wastewater from zone 1? What if we use 100% grey water from zone 2, because it is zone 2 is an area of on-site sanitation and the black water will go to the septic tanks, but the grey water management is essential for this area as we have already analyzed before in the before slides. And what if you use utilizing combined wastewater and grey water from both the zones? In each scenario quantifies the portion of identified 774-acre farmland that can be irrigated or plowed using the city's treated wastewater. So from the analysis, it can be concluded that in the best case scenario, that is when if there is 15% of NRW, and if we use 86% of the annual volume, that is integrating both the zones grey water and wastewater, it can irrigate only 97 acres of identified out of the total suitable 774 suitable acres of agricultural land, indicating that there is a significant disparity between the demand and supply. This also gives us as a benefit for potential inclusion of additional rural areas in future for more optimal utilization of wastewater in agriculture. So coming to the wastewater use for domestic purposes, it has been observed that another addition of 22% of water can be reused through domestic water supply through either by through toilet flushing and gardening purposes. So in summary, the primary concern necessitates addressing the groundwater recharge, fostering wastewater use, empowering local governing bodies and facilitating the convergence of various agencies to ensure smooth and development process and successful implementation of project of this magnitude. Hence, the recommendations are in alignment with the key concerns identified. Coming to the proposal, the first proposals involved enhancing groundwater recharge by converting existing ponds into recharge ponds, which is a nature-based solution. Now coming to the rainwater harvesting, coming to the policy level schemes on rainwater harvesting. Currently, there are two policies that facilitates rainwater harvesting in the state or in the city. But absence of clear guidelines, that is minimum plot size required for rainwater harvesting and no legal compulsion for old houses to retrofit rainwater harvesting, results in no practice of harvesting rain in the city. Thus, to ensure efficient rainwater harvesting model at individual levels, enforcement of strict rules with clear guidelines at building level is extremely important. Incentives can be another way to facilitate the process. Existing wells and bore wells can also be converted into recharge wells, indicating effective rainwater harvesting strategies. Installing recharge pits in public schools and institutions can further facilitate rainwater harvesting, a model which has successfully been implemented in Rajkot. As part of the second recommendation, which is on safe wastewater reuse in agriculture, numerous national and international case studies are done, which highlights that globally treated wastewater is increasingly used as a sustainable irrigation source, reducing the pressure on freshwater and groundwater supplies. But to implement safe wastewater reuse in agriculture, a state wastewater policy is urgently needed. As we can see that many of the states like West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, which use extensively use wastewater for agriculture, has a wastewater policy in place. And this wastewater policy is will establishes clear guidelines, standards, and suitable farming practices for safe and efficient wastewater utilization in agriculture. Coming to the technical recommendations for wastewater reuse in agriculture, the proposal is such that since the grey water from zone 2, the management of grey water is not being addressed, so I'm recommending that these grey water uh, mm, should be carried on to a prelim treatment plant, which will be a nature based solution, that is a constructed wetland through small bore sewers, and then after this treatment in this constructed wetland, they can be used for agriculture. Similarly, this zone 1 area, which is already have a sewer connection, and all this wastewater will go into the STP, and after this treatment this in spite of putting everything discharging into the river, they can be reused in agricultural purposes. So coming to the third recommendation of balancing the emitted carbon footprint, techniques like Miyawaki afforestation and agroforestry system is proposed to be implemented in the city. So coming to the institutional mapping of the city, it is known that initially UK Payajal Nigam was the prime body looking after the capital works of the WaSH networks, and UK Jal Sansthan was involved in the O&M. The ULB had no powers and only acted as a coordination agency. But the ULRP project has notably excluded UP Payajal Nigam, an entity with significant historical and context-specific expertise, and it has been replaced by Uttarakhand Urban Sector Development Agency. The Uttarakhand Jal Sansthan agency is still acting as a monitoring agency, but the project execution has been awarded to a third-party contractor under called EMS under design, build, operate model for 18 years, and the ULB continued to be act as a coordination agency with no power as such. Also, there are various other agencies that governs the blue-green infrastructure of the city and plays a major role in maintaining the wash services in the city, as already been seen in the above slide. But currently, they are all being excluded in these program, and also. Uh, uh, the inherent limitations of the ULB's budget and expertise highlights a potential inefficiency in its capacity to effectively absorb and manage development projects of this scale. So, to empower local authorities, which is the need of the hour, a series of short and long term training programs are recommended. Encouraging digital literacy initiatives and regular performance monitoring will also help ensure effective outcomes. To overcome the institutional defragmentation, data transparency must be prioritized. Regular meetings focused on city infrastructure should be conducted on a centralized platform at regular intervals. Thank you.